There is a quiet truth whispered across generations, cultures, and spiritual traditions. Some women are not meant for ordinary paths. They are chosen, not because life is easier for them, but because life demands more from them. Chosen women feel deeply, see clearly, and carry a gravity that shifts rooms even when they say nothing. Yet this depth comes with risk. The same qualities that make a woman powerful can become the very doors through which her energy, purpose, and destiny leak away. These mistakes do not destroy loudly, they erode silently. And once fallen into, they are difficult to climb out of, not because the woman is weak, but because the cost is spiritual, emotional, and psychological. This message is not for everyone. It is for the woman who has felt different her whole life, who has outgrown rooms, relationships, and versions of herself faster than others could keep up. It is for the woman who senses she is being prepared for something greater, yet keeps encountering resistance, heartbreak, delays, or deep exhaustion. These 9 mistakes are traps disguised as virtues, lessons disguised as love, and compromises disguised as maturity. A chosen woman does not survive them, not because she cannot endure pain, but because they slowly disconnect her from who she truly is. Avoid them totally. 1. Shrinking herself to be loved. The first fatal mistake is self-erasure in the name of acceptance. Chosen women often radiate intensity, intelligence, intuition, ambition, emotional depth. These qualities are not small, not quiet, not easily ignored. They carry a presence that can fill rooms without words, a depth that makes shallow interactions feel unbearable, and a light that exposes what others try to hide. Yet, in a world that is often uncomfortable with powerful femininity, she may begin to feel that her natural state is too much, too perceptive, too expressive, too ambitious, too emotionally aware, and slowly, almost without noticing, she begins the process of editing herself for the comfort of others. When she dulls her light to make others comfortable, she commits a slow betrayal of her soul. She speaks less when she has more to say. She hides her opinions when she knows they carry truth. She pretends not to notice what her intuition clearly sees. She laughs softly instead of fully. She dreams quietly instead of boldly. She makes herself digestible, agreeable, less confronting, less radiant. And in doing so, she trades authenticity for approval. What feels like love in the moment is actually the quiet negotiation of her identity. Love that requires you to be smaller is not love. It is containment. It is a subtle form of emotional imprisonment where the bars are made of expectations, politeness, and the desire to be accepted. Over time, this shrinking breeds resentment, confusion, and inner emptiness. She may not immediately recognize it, but she begins to feel tired without knowing why, irritated without clear reason, disconnected from herself without understanding what she lost. The truth is, she lost herself in pieces, offering fragments of her authenticity in exchange for temporary belonging. A chosen woman was never meant to be edited for consumption. Her nature is expansive, expressive, intuitive, and powerful. The moment she abandons her full expression, she loses alignment, and without alignment, nothing in her life flows correctly. Opportunities feel forced. Relationships feel unsatisfying. Her inner peace becomes fragile. She begins to live from performance rather than presence. This is deadly because it does not feel like self-betrayal at first. It feels like compromise, maturity, kindness. But the cost accumulates quietly. Eventually she looks in the mirror and feels unfamiliar to herself. She wonders why she feels unseen, not realizing she was the first person to stop seeing herself clearly. The healing begins the moment she recognizes that her fullness was never the problem. The environment that required her to shrink was. 2. ignoring her intuition to keep the peace. A chosen woman's intuition is not a suggestion, it is a survival tool. It is the quiet inner knowing that speaks before logic, before evidence, before explanation. It is the sense that something is off in a room where everyone else feels comfortable. It is the discomfort she cannot justify but cannot ignore. This intuition is one of her greatest gifts, a compass that has guided her through confusion, protected her from danger, and helped her navigate complex emotional landscapes. Yet, one of the most dangerous compromises she can make is silencing this voice in order to avoid conflict and keep temporary peace. Ignoring it to avoid conflict is one of the most dangerous compromises she can make. She feels when something is wrong long before proof appears. She senses dishonesty in tone, insincerity in gestures, and misalignment in energy. But when she chooses to override that knowing to maintain harmony, she begins a slow disconnection from her inner wisdom. She tells herself she is overthinking. She convinces herself she is being dramatic. She minimizes her feelings for the comfort of others. When she silences that inner voice to keep harmony, she invites chaos later. What she avoids today becomes a crisis tomorrow. What she ignores quietly becomes a storm loudly. Peace that costs intuition is temporary. The consequences are permanent. Because intuition does not disappear when ignored. It waits. And when it returns, it often does so through pain, betrayal, or loss that could have been avoided. Every time she overrides her knowing, she trains herself to distrust her own wisdom, and that disconnection is devastating. She begins to rely more on external validation than internal clarity. She starts asking others what she already knows. She hesitates in situations where she once moved confidently. Doubt replaces certainty. This mistake is particularly harmful because intuition is part of her divine design. It is how she navigates the world safely and meaningfully. When she abandons it, she abandons her most reliable guide. The path back begins when she stops apologizing for what she feels and starts honoring what she knows, even when it creates discomfort for others. 3. Overgiving to the undeserving. Chosen women love deeply, serve sincerely, and give generously. But when giving becomes self-abandonment, it turns toxic. Her heart is naturally open. She finds joy in helping, in nurturing, in supporting. She sees pain in others and instinctively wants to ease it. She sees potential and wants to encourage it. She sees struggle and wants to soften it. This generosity is beautiful, but without boundaries, it becomes a doorway through which others can walk endlessly without ever giving anything in return. Pouring energy into people who do not reciprocate, respect, or even recognize her value drains her life force. She begins to feel constantly tired, emotionally depleted, and strangely unappreciated. This mistake is deadly because it disguises itself as kindness. It feels noble, it feels loving, it feels compassionate. But generosity without boundaries is self-destruction. It turns her into a resource rather than a person. A chosen woman must learn that access to her energy is earned, not assumed. Otherwise, she becomes a sanctuary for those who never intend to heal. People begin to rely on her strength without ever acknowledging her needs. They lean on her stability without offering support. They take from her emotional well without ever refilling it. Over time, she may feel invisible, used, and resentful. She wonders why she feels so drained when she is just being kind. The truth is, she has crossed the line from giving to overgiving, from love to self-neglect, from compassion to self-erasure. True generosity includes self-preservation. True kindness includes boundaries. When she learns to give without losing herself, her love becomes sustainable, powerful, and respected. 4. staying where she has already outgrown. Growth creates distance, and distance creates discomfort. As a chosen woman evolves, her mindset changes, her values refine, and her awareness deepens. The places, people, and environments that once felt familiar begin to feel restrictive. Conversations feel shallow. Relationships feel heavy. Surroundings feel stagnant. Yet, one of the hardest truths for her to accept is that not everyone can come with her. Staying in environments, friendships, or relationships she has outgrown suffocates her evolution. Her soul begins to feel restless, heavy, even depressed. This is not ingratitude, it is truth. She is not rejecting people, she is responding to growth. But guilt, loyalty, and fear of hurting others may keep her stuck longer than she should be. When she ignores the call to move forward, life forces the exit through pain. What she refuses to leave gently, she is pushed away from painfully. Chosen women are not punished for leaving. They are punished for staying too long. Her spirit was designed for expansion, not confinement. When she remains in spaces that no longer match her growth, she begins to feel dimmed, uninspired, and emotionally suffocated. The courage to outgrow is the courage to honor who she is becoming. Confusing struggle with destiny. Because chosen women often experience early hardship, they may subconsciously believe suffering is proof they are on the right path. From a young age, she may have learned to associate pain with growth, difficulty with purpose, and endurance with strength. She survived situations that would have broken others, navigated emotional storms with quiet resilience, and carried burdens far heavier than she should have. Over time, this history of survival can create a dangerous internal narrative that struggle is not only familiar but necessary. That if something is hard, it must be meaningful. That if it hurts, it must be shaping her into who she is meant to become. This is a dangerous illusion. Struggle can teach, but prolonged suffering without growth is not destiny, it is stagnation. There is a difference between a challenge that refines you and a situation that slowly erodes you. One sharpens your character, the other depletes your spirit. One moves you forward, the other traps you in cycles you were meant to break. But because hardship has been such a consistent part of her story, she may fail to recognize when suffering has stopped being a lesson and started being a cage. Not every difficult relationship, job, or situation is a lesson to endure. Some are warnings to leave. Some are signals that you have stayed too long in a place meant only for a season. But if she believes that enduring pain is part of her identity, she may stay where she is slowly diminishing. She may tolerate disrespect, instability, or emotional exhaustion because she has learned to wear endurance like a badge of honor. A chosen woman must learn discernment, pain that refines versus pain that diminishes. This discernment is not easy because both can feel intense, uncomfortable, and demanding. But one leaves her wiser, stronger, and more aligned. The other leaves her drained, confused, and disconnected from herself. Confusing the two keeps her trapped in cycles she was meant to break. She begins to normalize what should never be normalized. She starts believing that peace is suspicious because she is so used to chaos, and in doing so, she delays the life that was meant to be lighter, clearer, and more aligned with her true purpose, seeking validation instead of alignment. When a chosen woman looks outward for approval, she disconnects inward from purpose. Validation is seductive because it feels like confirmation. It feels like being seen, accepted, acknowledged. Compliments, praise, attention, and recognition can temporarily soothe insecurities and make her feel valued. But when she begins to depend on this external feedback to guide her decisions, she slowly loses contact with her internal compass. Validation is addictive, fleeting, and costly. The more she chases it, the more she abandons her own standards. She starts asking, will they approve? Instead of, is this aligned with who I am? She edits her choices to be more acceptable, more impressive, more applauded. But in the process, she drifts further from her authentic self. Alignment, on the other hand, is quiet but powerful. It does not need applause. It does not require witnesses. It simply feels right in her spirit. A chosen woman who trades alignment for validation loses direction, integrity, and peace. She may appear successful on the outside while feeling empty on the inside. She may receive admiration while feeling deeply misunderstood. And without peace, success feels hollow. Achievements lose their meaning because they were built on performance rather than authenticity. She was never meant to be chosen by the world. She was meant to choose herself. When she returns to alignment, she no longer needs approval to feel secure. Her confidence becomes rooted in truth rather than perception. Romanticizing potential over reality. Seeing potential is one of a chosen woman's gifts and one of her greatest traps. She has the rare ability to see what people could become, to recognize hidden strengths, to imagine better versions of situations and relationships. This vision is beautiful, compassionate, and hopeful. But when she begins to love who someone could be instead of who they consistently are, she steps into dangerous emotional territory. Loving potential over reality keeps her bound to disappointment. Potential is not a promise. It is only a possibility. Effort, consistency, and accountability are reality. When she invests in future versions of people while ignoring present behavior, she sacrifices her present life for imaginary outcomes. She waits. She hopes. She excuses. She explains away red flags because she can see what could happen if they just changed. But people are not loved into transformation by patience alone. Change requires willingness, responsibility, and action from the other person. Without that, she is building emotional attachments to fantasies. This mistake drains years, confidence, and emotional health. She may look back and realize how much time she gave to someone who never met her halfway. Chosen women must love truth more than hope. They must learn to respect what is shown, not what is imagined. Neglecting rest while carrying everyone else. Chosen women are often natural pillars, strong, reliable, emotionally available. People gravitate toward her because she feels safe, wise, and grounding. She becomes the one others lean on in times of crisis, the listener in moments of confusion, the helper when life becomes overwhelming. But strength without rest becomes fragility. When she carries everyone's burdens and ignores her own need for restoration, burnout follows quietly. She may continue functioning, smiling, supporting, and giving long after her energy has been depleted. But inside, she begins to feel tired in a way that sleep cannot fix. Exhaustion clouds judgment, weakens boundaries, and makes her vulnerable to manipulation. Rest is not laziness. It is spiritual maintenance. It is how she reconnects to herself, regains clarity, and restores emotional balance. A chosen woman who neglects rest slowly loses clarity, and clarity is her greatest protection. 9. Forgetting her connection to the divine. The final and most dangerous mistake is forgetting where her power comes from. Chosen women are deeply connected, whether they call it God, Source, Spirit, or the universe. This connection is the foundation of her intuition, strength, and guidance. It is what centers her when life becomes chaotic. When she becomes consumed by survival, fear, or external noise, She may neglect prayer, reflection, gratitude, or stillness. This disconnection leaves her operating on ego and effort alone. Without divine alignment, even her talents feel heavy. She begins to feel like she's pushing through life rather than flowing with it. Remembering her spiritual connection restores guidance, timing, and protection. It reminds her that she is supported, directed, and never alone. When she forgets it, life feels like constant resistance. When she returns to it, life regains its rhythm, meaning, and grace. If this message found you at a moment when you needed clarity, strength, or confirmation, it was not an accident. Some messages arrive as mirrors, others arrive as warnings. This is the Woman of Light channel. If you want more teachings like this, messages designed to awaken, protect, and empower, subscribe to this channel and stay connected. And if this message reached you at the exact time your spirit needed it most, type 11. 11 in the comment section as a symbol of alignment and divine blessing. Those who recognize the moment are often the ones being prepared for something greater. Thank you for watching.